Andre from Peak Motorcycles here. In this video I'm going to be looking at the Evotech Performance GPS Bracket for my Honda CB1000R. So my bike's a 2020 model. It's the Neo Sports Cafe, Honda call it. It's based on the old Fireblade. I had planned on using it for touring, and this year I was going to take it to Romania. However, COVID had other plans, so that's now been cancelled. What I wanted to talk about in this video is that I have my BMW Nav6 GPS. Currently I've got this mounted on the bike where it sits on a ram ball mount, which is just on the top yoke. What I have found is that this is quite a long way down, and you do have to take your eyes off the road if you want to glance at it. So I want to see if I could lift it up a little bit. One option is to have a much longer arm, which doesn't look great and, to be honest, vibrates quite a lot. The other option was to find another way to mount it. Thankfully, Evotech Performance do a bracket. Now, what they weren't able to tell me was whether it would fit the Plus version of the bike. So my bike is the Honda CB1000R Plus, and this is the one that comes with the small Honda wind deflector. So this gives a little bit of protection, but not a lot. However, where it mounts is the same place where the bracket has to mount. So in this video, I'm going to look at whether it fits on the bike, whether it will fit on a Plus model, or whether you can also have a windscreen in addition to the GPS bracket. I did ask Evotech Performance if it would fit the Plus, and unfortunately they weren't able to tell me. So hopefully, guys, if you watch this, you'll find out one way or the other. So what you get in the box is you get this bracket, and this is designed to fit on the windscreen mount on the CB1000R, and then the GPS bracket itself fits to the top. You get a couple of Evotech Performance stickers. Thanks, guys. You get a bag of fixing bits which are specific to Garmin. I think this is what makes it different from any of the others. And then there's a handful of additional fixing screws in a bag. So yeah, all the packaging looks pretty good. It doesn't come with instructions, but it does say on the bag that for installation instructions, visit evotechperformance.com. Navigate to your make, model and year, select your product and click on the instruction link. So I went to evotechperformance.com. It's very easy to find the bike. And there's just a handful of things they make for the CB1000R. So it was easy enough just to find the download instructions. They come down as a PDF, and to be honest, it all looks very straightforward. So I'm just going to follow these through and fit it to the bike. I think the bit I probably need to do first is actually a bit further down, which is actually fitting this bracket to the mount itself, and then I can go back up and actually screw that to the bike. So I'm going to make a start on that and see how I get on. So the bracket itself actually fits in on the back there in place of these 4 bolts. So this is the windscreen that I get on the Plus that you don't get on the standard bike. So it's really whether there is enough clearance for that to fit around that. It looks like there should be. So here goes. First thing to do is to take out this Torx bolt. So by taking that off, that should release the headlamp. Okay, so the next thing is to remove the windscreen. The problem we appear to have is that this is the windshield bracket, and it is slightly over the bolts that I need to remove from in here that this is then going to sit on. So having a quick look, yeah, so where these bits are a bit bigger, you can see these bolts are actually recessed. So if that does slot up underneath there might just be enough room for this bracket to fit around it, but it is going to be tight. So here goes. Okay, so that's the bracket for the windscreen. Now that doesn't need to come out all the way. I can move it to the side just enough to get to these screws behind. Okay, so I think when that goes in, that might actually be good. Yep, so that looks like that will fit in there. And I'm kind of hoping those will then just bolt up back over the top. And we should be good to go with both fitted. There is a question whether the windshield will go back on there or not. But before I actually fit it, what I'm going to do is there is a small nub to put the cable tie on. So I'm going to take the mount off the bike, route the cable around the back and put that into the tie before I fix it. So we'll do that. Okay, so that's the last one. So that is all of those done, and I can now take the ram mount off the Garmin bracket. There we go. So now that needs to go onto the one on the new bracket on the front. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is mount that onto the bracket that will go onto the GPS unit, which kind of goes on like that. A couple of Allen bolts. Yep. Now that's in, that now has to fit into here. So there's these little double locking washers. One of those goes in each side like that. So there and there like that, and then that just slots in to the top of the bracket. Roughly hold that in place. Next thing I want is a small washer that goes on the top, and then these adjustable pins which just do up into there. And the same on the other side, just the washer goes on. As you can see, all of this, looks like it's quite high quality. The pressings are good, they're very clean cut edges, and everything is powder coated in a matte black finish. This is actually what the cable for the sat nav is going to go through. It's like a relief gland which will go on there. I'm not going to fit that just yet because I'm going to do it when I get to the bike. And then these are the four which will go through and actually hold the GPS bracket to it. So I'll go back to the bike and finish up. Okay, so the next thing is I'm actually going to fit the GPS bracket onto the powered plate. So that's just got these four screws. Cool, so that's everything on there. The last thing is to fit the cable gland. So this is something that's just going to make sure that the cable stays flush down here. And then we take these longer screws that came with the kit and the original washer, and these should all just pop back in, and that will hopefully all seal back up again. There we go, that all looks good. So now just to reassemble this. Now, I don't know if you can quite see that in there, but the problem we've got is this back bolt that's holding the dash on is actually what's snagging on the outer frame here. So what I'm going to see if I can do is if I can just actually take a nip out the edge of that bar. It's a bit annoying, but I think that's the only way that I'm going to get the screen and the sat nav on at the same time. What I'm going to do, I'm actually just going to try a hacksaw, is that you can see the line there I've cut, and another one along there. So that's that cut. So now I just want the cut along that edge. Quite pleased with that. I'll need painting up again, but then the whole bracket will. So I'll just deburr that. But yeah, hopefully that should slot in, and then that should be clear of that screw. Well, it's not the prettiest thing ever, but if it fits, then I'll get it painted up, and yeah, it doesn't seem to have affected the strength very much. This bit as well is also a bit of a concern. That's where it was actually on the bolt. So let's see if that'll bend enough to fit round. You see under there, just about, you'll see this bit here, that's still very much over the top of it, so it actually looks like I have to lose half of that bracket, and then hopefully that other half will still be clear. It does have this big pin that goes through there, so I'm not that worried about the screen. It is just quite a lot of butchering to do. So I'll mark that up, go back and cut that with a hacksaw, and all being well, that should then fit back on, and I'll do the same for that side as well. Yeah. Okay, so I've taken the angle grinders to that, basically cut down that edge. That was like the double piece, as you can see there. Hopefully that's coming into focus. So yeah, hopefully that should now clear it. Now I think most of the weight is actually taken through that pin, which is the one that goes onto the headlamp mount, and that's more for just for stability. So hopefully everything will still be strong enough. I think it probably will be, but yeah, the guys at Evotech, yeah, you might just want to try and get hold of one of the Plus bikes, or at least one of these screens, because currently your design doesn't work with a bike with a screen, and frankly the people who are probably going to be wanting the GPS bracket are also the ones who might want to have a screen on it. Anyway, I'll fit this back on, and if that's all right, then I'll go and cut the other one to match, and then maybe we should be in business. Yep, so that's good. Okay, so yeah, hopefully you can see that now, where that bracket is, and how that does actually clear it. So the bit in question, get my light to stay where it is, there we go. So yeah, so this is the piece here that I've had to cut away. So now that this side is missing, if you see back from where that screw is, that's been cut away, so it fits around the Evotech Performance bracket. On this side you can see the full bracket with the two arms is still intact. So I need to go away, cut the same away on that side, and then we should be good. All right, I'll go and do that. So this is the one that has been cut down, as you can see. I do need to just take another little bit out of it just here, just on that edge, just so it fits around the bolt. And then for a comparison, that's what the two of them look like side by side. So from that side, it's still kind of the same. As you can see from the top, oops, do them the right way around. I've had to take almost all of that top bar off, and this is the screen bracket, not the one that came from Evotech. So basically you can see where I've drawn on there in pen to basically take out that bit, take out all of this side along here, just so it fits around the Evotech bracket. So if you have a CBR 1000R Plus, or you have a standard bike and you're with the Honda screen, you're going to have to cut your screen brackets if you want to fit this GPS bracket. So here goes. And then the last bit, just to take that off, and then I need to take the wedge out. And some deburring. And then that piece, let's take off with that. Okay, I think that's nearly good. Last bit is just this little piece on the corner, which maybe it will just file out actually. Put down a touch, hopefully that's enough. Let's do the same for that one. There we go then, two rather butchered brackets, but they are at least the same. We now have that from that side, both these bits cut down quite a lot. Let's take that back up and see what we can do. That looks pretty good, and actually that is snug up against that now. There we go. that is kind of in. I don't think the screen is going to clear this bit on the bracket, but maybe with a couple of spacers we'll be all right. But otherwise, that's looking good. Yeah, I'll try and fit the screen, and then I think I'm done. Yeah, and there's the problem. It's basically this, the top bit of that bracket is not going to reach, and in fact, you know what? It's not even close. It's a mile off. So sorry guys at Evotech Performance, but your bracket, I agree, it does fit the bike, but it does not fit the screen at all. So that's a shame. I might see if I can get some standoff posts or something, so that will still fit in. I don't really want to cut the official Honda part because that's snagging on the top of there. But yeah, that's a shame really, but still. Nice try guys, looks like a nice bracket. If you have a CB1000R that doesn't have the Honda screen, then I think you'll be fine. It's just fine with that. It's just you can't have the screen and the Evotech Performance bracket at the same time. So there you go. I mean, it looks pretty good when it's on. From a riding position perspective, having the sat-nav up there is way better than having it down here on the side. Having said that, the fact that there's this big bit at the back of the bracket here, that bit there, which means that you can't actually get the screen back on, kind of makes it a little bit pointless. Yeah, it's basically, this is the screen that's supposed to fit back onto those mountings, but as you can see, it's basically snagging on the top there quite a lot, and there's no chance that those holes are going to line up. I mean, there's like an inch or so in there, so it's either to make this, if Evotech are wanting to improve the design, they can make these bars a little higher, a little further forwards, maybe even take out the back of there so it fits. What I might try is if I can get some standoff posts to come off these and some much longer bolt. A bit of a wasted evening, and we've got the bracket on at least. I think I'll take these off for now if I'm going to use the sat-nav and just not use the screen. So a shame really. I mean, to be honest, I think if you had the bike without the screen and you just put it on, it does look kind of ugly. So if I could just get that to fit together with it, I think it would actually look all right. But anyway, it is what it is. More to follow. Thanks for watching. Hi there, so I'm back. It's been a few days while I've been away. I ordered a few things off the internet. I've got some of these 60mm panhead bolts in stainless steel, and I've also got a length of 5mm internal diameter, 10mm external diameter vacuum hose. And I think that by making some mounts from this, I'll basically put the screws in. Hopefully they're long enough. Want to know how long they are, I can cut the ends off, and also cut lengths of the silicone tube as kind of like a standoff to hopefully keep the screen clear of everything behind it while still being secure enough. So here goes. The first thing I'm going to do is just take all the washers off the old screws and move them out onto the new ones. Don't really need them, but I suppose it's just a bit of extra security, and it will stop the steel there rubbing against the plastic on the screen. So I'll just take all of those off. Okay, so that's all done. So I'll take those up and I'll put them on the screen and let's see how it fits. Okay then, so this is the screen and it needs to try and fit basically on there with enough of a standoff that it doesn't clear, that it doesn't touch up here, and ideally so I can still get to those adjusters. So let me start some of these off. I do think the upper ones are probably going to be significantly higher, significantly longer than the lower ones, just because that's kind of where it needs to be to stand it off. Okay, so that's actually not looking too terrible. It looks like I actually need very little space on the bottom versus the top. So based on what I have there, let's get the micrometer out, measure that weight. I think I'm probably looking at a little more than that at an angle. What's that? 23mm, something like that, maybe a little bit more, maybe 30mm on the top. And then at the bottom, I think it's about 10mm, maybe a little bit more. So yes, it's just over 10mm. So I'll probably do it something like 12mm tube at the bottom, 30mm at the top, and just see how that goes. The rubber will compress a little bit, So I think it will, it doesn't matter if they're a little bit longer, or at least better a little bit longer than a little bit shorter. So just to give you a bit of a look around to see what it's like before I cut the screws. I'm going to do the pipes before I actually cut them, just so I can cut them to exactly the right length. From the front, I mean, it is more upright than it was. It's not perfect, but it's a lot better than, I think, than having nothing at all. And as you can see, there's the kind of the 10 mil gap at the bottom, and the 30 mil gap at the top should be enough just to stand that off, and then also have the clearance from the adjusters for the sat-nav bracket. Okay, I'm going to go and cut some lengths of rubber tubing, and then I'll come back and fit it all together. Okay, so I actually decided I'd do 10 millimeters and 35 millimeters just to be sure, and it's all slightly offset at an angle because of how the bolts butt up against the back of the screen. So I'm actually going to cut the ends a bit off. So what I'm going to do for the longer pieces, I'm actually going to cut a length that is 7.5 centimeters long, and I'm going to cut it at an angle in the middle, which will hopefully give me two equally angled but opposite pieces. So there we go. So that's going to be my piece to do the two long lengths. So I think I'm actually going to cut about there. There we go. So that's two pieces like that. They're not quite the same length. There's about an extra millimetre on that side. So I'm just going to cut those off together. Okay, so hopefully that's the two longer pieces that I need. The next thing is to cut two 10 mil lengths. I'm going to take this slightly same approach. 20 mil total is about to there. So what I have here is two pieces like that for the bottom, two pieces like that for the top, and I shall now go and fit those and see where that leaves me on the bike. I do have quite a lot of tube left, so I can do a bit more if I need to. So I'm just going to fit these on the back side of each one of these. Okay, so I think what I can see from this is that those top ones are actually too long, quite a lot too long. So I think I will reduce these down by about maybe 5 mil, just close that gap up at the top a little bit. But let me see, I'm going to put these bottom ones in. Is that going to be too steep? I think the other thing, actually, before I do this up all the way, I am going to cut these lower ones down. I have the old bolts, so I'll basically add on the length of that lower spacer. It's going to kind of be in like that. So yeah, I think when the top ones are, yeah, those are far too long. If anything, I could actually do with another 5 mil on the bottom, and perhaps then 10 off the top. That will just close that gap down there. So I'll throw those two in the bin, get some longer ones of those, and yeah, 15 at the bottom, 10 mil off the top, and I'm going to cut down these bolts at the same time. Okay, so this is what the back of the screen looks like. So first thing up is I want two of those that are about 1 centimetre longer for the bottom. Yeah, those are pretty equal, and slight differences can be evened up just by how much I do up the bolts. Next up, these two, I want to take 1 centimetre off each. I'm also going to put a bit of an angle on the back side of them, just because it looked a little bit sort of odd up against what it was. So I want to take 1 centimetre off, so I'm going to basically cut that about there with a bit of an angle. That can go in the bin together with that, and I'll do this one exactly the same. So that's those. So the next thing I want to do is to cut these down. So for the lower ones, I'm just going to see where that sits, and then I'm going to allow for maybe another 10 mil or so. So for these ones, allow a bit of space for that to be done up. So basically cut those around there, and then for the longer ones, time to cut. I'm just going to cut the lower two. So now I've got all these new bits, I'm going to fit all of these to the bike and hopefully everything fits. Okay, so actually, yeah, I think that's pretty good. That is clear of the mount. It's certainly fixed firmly enough in place. Yeah, I think by doing it at the bottom it will pull the top out a little bit, but I think before then there's a bit of a gap here, so I'm just going to cut four little wedges for each of those, and then I'll put those in and do it all up, and that should be good. Looking at the length of the bolts, the bottom ones could probably be a little shorter maybe. It might just take 5mm off those while I'm at it. So I now have all those pieces cut. I've cut down the bolts by another 5mm, so now that's 30mm bolts at the bottom, 45mm bolts for the top, so hopefully that should stand off just about right. I've also made some of these little wedges just to go on the outside of the screen, just so the bolts aren't sticking up too much, but let's see how this goes. So you see there I've got the wedge on the outside, the angled piece in the middle, and then just enough bolts sticking out to engage in there. And yeah, job done. That's pretty solid. I know it's quite close up here, but there's enough give in the rubbers that I'm sure if I can pull those out if I do need to adjust it. But yeah, pretty pleased with that. So hopefully you can see that. So that is the new bolts on the outside. These are these two stainless bolts, some little wedges, then the vacuum hose pipe in the middle. Going on to the existing bracket, there is just about enough clearance at the top. It's definitely not going to vibrate into it. From the front, yeah, it looks pretty much as it did before. The bike's on its side stand at the moment, which is why it's a bit lopsided, but it's certainly butted up against this bit in the top of the windscreen, in the top of the headlamp. It's not going to hit it, and yeah, that seems to be a pretty solid thing. So you can see better from this side, I think, just how these standoffs are done. So 45mm bolt at the top, 30mm bolt at the bottom. Might even get away with a 25, and then it's just a short length of 5mm inside diameter, 10mm outside diameter vacuum hose, and off you go. Yeah, that looks pretty good.